Greetings, welcome to the Lightroom forecast. This is our reading for time and tides, is what I like to call it, for the full moon in Virgo on the 27th, not too far away. So we're going to do a general collective global reading here for what this may, the potentials within this, around this time. We look at overarching energies at the moment. We look at our choices, collectively, of course, individually. We look at potential obstacles. We look at what is being transformed at this current time with this full moon, which is very nurturing, very healing, loving moon, I would say, but also highly creative. And then we look at traits for ease. So let's get going. Let's shuffle up here and see what comes out for overarching energies at this time. Overarching energies for this full moon, please. We have two cards. We'll just go through. We've got we have the Nine of Wands for overarching energies at this time, which is a card of that largely indicates what are in fact habitual behaviours, specifically about defence. But we also have this beautiful, just flew out of my hand, this beautiful Princess of Cups, a very dreamy, very Venusian card. Being swept along in the emotional currents, the imagination, the dreamy nature, very Neptunian as well. Interesting for overarching energies at this time. Anyway, I'll keep going through and then we can have a bit of a dialogue about what's going on the table today, where we look at our choices at this time. We look at our choices, just too many here. Yeah, too many choices sometimes, and sometimes not enough. Right, so we've got those. Choice position. We look at potential obstacles. And remember, obstacles can be, in fact, advantages. We seem to be getting three cards coming out all at once. I'll turn those up in a minute. What is being transformed? Because there is a transformation going on. There are always transformations going on. We just get three cards for that. We're getting quite a lot coming out. Oh man. Right, okay, and traits for ease, dear people out there. Traits for ease at this full moon in Virgo on the 27th. A great time, as I've said through the astro signs this week. A great time for self-nurturing. In the smallest ways. It doesn't have to be extravagant. The simplest things that give you comfort, that give you pleasure. Excuse me. And we will go through and just clarify some of this, but let's get into it. So as I said before, the Nine of Wands, classically the Wounded Warrior card, it is about historically always been on defense, and that can be physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it happens to be in your life and your scenario. And we are speaking very collectively. This is a very general reading for the global community for this full moon. So we have this realization, I think, or it's presenting itself to us around us. It's become quite clear, in fact, is what I feel. Often the Princess of Cups, for me, I feel, and in this reading, it does feel like it feels like two things to me. It feels like a default mechanism of sorts. This dreamy kind of imaginal world, a place where you go when things get a little bit challenging, a place where you go in your mind to really have a break, like just to have a break. I think that's quite good. There were two things here. So a sort of default mechanism, but also, as I said, it's a good thing to have that. There's nothing that says that you can't do that when things get a little bit too much. Of course, every state is a passing state, and so we don't necessarily stay in that position for too long. I think this goes with there's some really quite delicious things happening with Venus around this full moon as well, and I think that's probably an aspect of it. The other thing that I'm getting is I think globally, individually, collectively, people are realizing maybe that that their limitations of old have really opened up, have really like a door's been opened, and that suddenly we see all these possibilities beyond the Nine of Wands. Okay, so let's keep moving. Our choices here. Look, we've come to the end of a majorly large cycle. This is a whole new period of time. I know you probably see that everywhere. This is a whole new epoch, and yes, it is. Choices. What we get here is the Ten of Swords. In the Thoth deck, it's called cruelty. It can be something, of course, that we do to ourselves, but it certainly indicates generally that we've got to the end of a line of sorts. We've got to the end of a cycle. You can't take more than 10, like you've got really. That's the ultimate in terms of sortage that you can really contain. And all of the sword suit, that's really the passing. We've seen it around us. We've seen it in the material, and it's passing. Very similar to the Nine of Wands in this reading. With that, we get the Eon. It couldn't really be more clearer, I don't think, here. The Eon in the Thoth deck is judgment. So at this rollover, because it is rolling over, we see, for me, judgment is, if you can imagine it in an abstract or obscure way, that past, present, and future gather together at a given point in time, and we really see this sort of it's sort of like of course, a reconfiguration, a rejigging with the knowledge of past, present, and future. looking at it in an abstract sense. So clearly our choices in the position of choice is that it's that I hear, you know, we do have to pay the ferryman, you know. We're heading into a whole new, our choices to really, to fully face front on, as it were, that there's this whole new beginning going on. And yeah, I just hear that, you know, and I hear this sort of, anyway, this drumming thing. Someone has to pay the ferryman. We all do individually anyway, don't we? We're just talking as a general term here, not anything to do with death or myth. Well, you know. Anyway, so we've gone through overarching. We've looked at our choice. We realise it's the end of a majorly large cycle, and that we have a backwash thing happening at the moment where we're kind of filtering through past, present, and future all at once in order to begin a new cycle. And yes, I always talk of new cycles because this is a constant in everyone's life, but it's certainly a major event that is going on as we speak. Wow, okay. So, and it is, we're getting 10s coming up here a lot. So if we look at obstacles at the moment, well, there's, yeah, burden, the 10 of Wands. Again, this is a passing, this is passing. We get to the end of the suit. We can't carry this load anymore. So it's time to let it go, people. This is the general thing. So the obstacle, I guess, and sometimes it is hard to know when the time is right to let go of our burdens, whether it be singularly or collectively, or to face those burdens actually. Wow, obstacle. I don't think, as one of my favourite cards, the Tower. Yes, chaos. Yes, great shifts going on, lots of changes, lots and lots of changes. We can see it in terms of our perspective. What do we choose here? We choose to recognise that it is a whole new cycle. Therefore, we would expect to see something like the Tower, new insight. Do we want to look at it as a crushing experience? I'm not marginalising anyone's experience at this current time, but what I'm saying is perspective here. Perspective. We're getting new insights. The eye of Horus at the top. New information coming through. We can look at this as a gift. We can look at it as a gift because there's a point where we start to rebuild in a way that we want to continue moving forward here with the Tower. I think this is these are big things, you know, judgment, the Tower, the 10s indicating, you know, the 10 of Swords, 10 of Wands, will, mind. We've got total sort of control over this within ourselves, in our own world. Maybe control's not the right word, but an understanding of it at least. So remembering that this Tower and the 10 of Wands are in the position of obstacles. Now, obstacles can be advantages. the other card, it's getting quite a few coming out in each position, the Emperor. You know, the Emperor, consort to the Empress. We get a divine coupling here, divine guidance, really. I say divine in its highest polarity. The Emperor is like the benevolent male figure. All that is, making things happen in the world, protecting one's family, domain. It's not gender. You know, we all have, females have often a large male qualities, you know, as some men have. We're all a mix here. So the Emperor, when we're looking at obstacles, the general directive is to go for the higher polarity of the Emperor, not the authoritarian controller of all, but a benevolent sort of fathering figure in its highest sense, that dependable and loving, because it can be a very loving card in that higher zone, in that higher perspective of it. So we need to be, I guess, suggested by the cards, to be aware of, I think it's quite difficult not to be aware of certain obstacles at the moment. But with the Tower and with the passing of this burden of the wands, the heaviness of it, and the fact that the Emperor is here, it's like we're rebuilding something. This to me is an advantage. This is a wonderful gift. We head into what has been transformed. We got 3 cards coming out for this position today. What has been transformed here? Because there is a massive transformation going on, of course. Now, I haven't looked at these cards, and we'll just talk about them as they came out. We've got so many major arcana today. We get Temperance, the divine timing card, as I was saying before, the divine and benevolent father figure, mother figure, alchemy, fermentation, I say. Things are bubbling away in the cosmos, and we do need a large level of patience, I feel. So what has been transformed? I think the ways that we do what we do has been transformed. What we see has been transformed. How we see it has been transformed. The information that we're getting as things speed up is transforming us. With this really, you know, in the traditional card, the water being exchanged from one vessel to another, this conducting element, waiting for a spark, almost waiting for it to appear in the material world, that is. It's pretty full on this selection of cards we get. So in the position of what has been transformed, we have the High Priestess. Look, it really, as I see this, it really becomes quite clear that in this reading, to me, it feels like there's a whole wave of a far more nurturing based nurturing based structures, which will be coming through gradually as the old crumbles, a far more humanity-based way of doing things. I mean, I'm not suggesting that the world's just a dark place, completely, because it's not. Because I don't think that at all. Anyway, it doesn't matter what I think. These are just the what we're getting today. So we get the High Priestess allows us behind her beautiful silver veil to investigate aspects of ourselves which can be helpful in how we operate on the outside in our material world. It's such a beautiful place to be able to enter. It's really quite full on. And with the High Priestess, this is about as much as judgment and our choice. This is we enter back. If you want to think of it like this, we enter back into the corridors of time, into our own histories, into our with those personal histories that can be in this lifetime. If you believe in other lifetimes, it can be going through we enter our the archives, and we integrate aspects of what we find within the High Priestess's library. We integrate those aspects into our own life. Maybe this is part of this fermentation, divine timing process. And so in this position of transformation, we get the card of transformation, which confirms this is a big time of shifts. We all know this. How much more amazing could it be? Divine timing, an allowance of sorts, a period where we enter some territory that maybe we're not familiar with, but we certainly get a grip on how we take that information back out into the world in terms of this transformative, amazing new cycle that we're in. Wow. Do we really need to clarify, I wonder? Is just talking big stuff, heavy emphasis on the qualities of what is considered more female qualities of nurturing, of unconditional love. And I say that because when we come here to qualities for ease at this time, traits to embody for ease, we have, believe it or not, the Empress, the ultimate and creative, pregnant with new ideas, with new ways of doing, the ultimate nurturing card. The Empress doesn't have to go forth and project outwards. She generates there on her throne. There is a crystallization, alchemical element to the Empress as well, where we see the element of salt. This crystallization of that. And in fact, the Emperor as her consort. There is a sulphurous element to this card. We see alchemy in its most mysterious ways happening in a global collective way here. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. The other card that came with this beautiful, I mean, it's just gorgeous. We have the swan, a lily, many things within this card. With that, with the Empress, in these qualities for success, qualities for to embody for ease at this time, we have the Wheel of Fortune. The wheels are turning. The wheel is turning. This is pretty explosive, like explosive's not probably exactly the right term. It is a selection of cards here that I could sit with for a few hours and look at all the many angles to it. But it really talks of big shifts afoot, which of course we all know that, and a very strong emphasis on allowing yourself to release old burdens, old perspectives and mindsets that do not serve you within your life anymore. And I'm talking on a personal level like that, but also in a global sense. So if we go through now and let's see, we'll get a, I might just pull one card for each placement here, just as we look at, it's just such it's like a 12-course meal, the spread for this Virgo full moon, honestly. And when we say that, I think that's enough, isn't it? We get 3 cards that came out, and I think that's probably enough. We'll get a journey map and a pixie and fairy to conclude this Time and Tides read. 12-course meal. We get the High Priestess again. New moons are occurring within this reading a few times here. And I'm not quite sure what we have in the next. Excuse me, I'm just looking at my yeah, the next new moon is in Pisces. The next new moon is in Pisces. Here we see a very Neptunian card under the position of overarching energies. So with these 3 cards, sorry this is quite disjointed, but there are just so many major arcanas and the message seems to be clear. We see the High Priestess. So we're traveling through those corridors individually, bringing new knowledge out for the collective, for ourselves, but also for the collective. We see the appropriate 4 of Swords, the card of healing, a card of respite, a card of knowing when the time is right to allow yourself some rest, some retreat, some nurture, in fact. And then with that, somehow all of this process allows the Six of Discs to come through in its absolute and utter gorgeousness. This mutuality, this generosity. Number 6, as I say on the Tree of Life, the point of harmony, balance, beauty, and love. This is a really love-filled reading. It's as if we're giving those things like burden, getting to the 10 of Swords. We're giving them the elbow because they're on their way out anyway. It's not that we don't individually or will experience these things again, but as a collective reading, as a general reading for the collective, this is fully about transformation and new beginnings and allowing ourselves to open up our perspectives on what the values, what the important things in this life are, the value in things which possibly in the last 80 odd years, 50 years, those things which have decreased their value, that people don't see as value. I think we all know the value of love in its highest form, its unconditional form. We get 2 cards coming out for the journey map, and I'll pull, oh, excuse me, a pixie and fairy for some light-hearted stuff. Actually, this reading is so meaty, for want of a better term, that I think I'll I'm going free form here. I'm going to pull because they are light-hearted cards, I'm going to pull the pixie and fairy card for each placement here. So bear with me. We're just going rogue on this reading. 2 journey map cards we get. We get imagining. Look, we can't forget this. We can't be put off. The ability, everything begins with a thought, an idea, a shape, a number. Everything begins within this imaging card. We see this child, actually, this growing, the cells are just rolling over, doing their thing at an exorbitant rate of speed. And the thought form comes in as an egg. So the egg appears quite well supported and protected here. Imaging, the imagination, everything starts with that. Everything starts with imaging. And as we move into new times, as we, in these times, a part of our evolution, I think, is that the 5 or even 6 senses have become, we're becoming much more than that. There are so many other senses that we are aware of, that we are using, that maybe we're starting to see little messages and signals and threads of that in mainstream, for example, media. But there are we are entering into more of a psychic age, whether we're aware of it or not. Now this ability to visualize, our ability to co-create is what it's all about with around our world, individually, collectively. With that, we get the crossroads. So we do a simple card of choice, a simple card of, okay, so what direction am I going to go in? What path am I going to take? You know, it's a simple card, but a very difficult card as choice always can be, if we are lucky enough to be surrounded by many options, I suppose. Very interesting. So, peoples, bear with. I'm going to go through, get a card, a pixie and fairy card. This is something a little bit different, but a pixie and fairy card for each of these positions. Overarching energy with the 9. Oops, gosh, that's, excuse me if I can get that. Oh, excuse me. That's actually, can I get it? Oh, man. Wow. Overarching energies. Excuse me. With the 9 of Wands and the Princess of Cups and her dreamy kind of default mechanism, but that serves a purpose, certainly serves a purpose as we do this reading for the full moon in Virgo, because I think there is something very dreamy going on at the moment. We get the Death card, transformation. We're changing our habits. We're changing our ways of operating. We have the ability to do that at any given time, for that matter. Interesting. Beautiful card, transformation. So we've really got that twice in this reading. Now we look at our choice here. Pixies and fairies, our choice. And we do get the card of choice, actually. We get the card of indecision. Maybe we are feeling slightly overwhelmed at times in this current climate. But the card of Indy shows clearly that there are a couple of choices here. And one is heavily weighted, more so than the other. Interesting, yeah. Now we get to the position of obstacles. Obstacles in this reading. It's all about choice. It's all about transformation. It's all about emphasis on the female qualities of nurturing and creativity and love. But in order to do that, we need to go back through the corridors of the High Priestess's zone to understand new aspects. Wow, I don't think I've got as many hands as I need, as I really need here. We need to, we're talking, sorry, I'm getting a bit confused. Epona's Wild Daughter. This is a gorgeous card. It is about retracing, going back in time, in our own time, whether it's in real time, what that is considered, or in our own corridors of history, as I like to call it, where we are allowed through the High Priestess's veil to enter into the archives, into the libraries, the rooms, the hallways. We go back. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of stuff that consciously we don't necessarily understand as well. That should not be a reason not to do it. I mean, I'm talking in metaphors or abstract ideas here, but I hope you stick with, I hope you're able to stay with the train of it, because all of this is so interconnected. So this transformation, what is this transformation? We get the fawn. Now this is a beautiful card. We see the self in others. This is the transformation, I believe, at this point in time for this particular reading. We see ourselves. This has been a theme for the last week. We see ourselves and others and others and ourselves. This is a card of our counterparts, of deep friendships. But not only that, it's not just the people in your sphere, in your world. We see a mirrored connection. Counterparts, allies, compadres is what we need to start. What we need, well, ideally operate in this way. It's like faith in the journey map. We recognize the pathways of light, of life force that exist and animate us. We recognize it in others. We honor it in ourselves and others. Beautiful. I mean, that's really a beautiful card, the fawn. And we head to the Empress and the Wheel of Fortune and qualities or traits for ease at this time. Traits for ease at this time. Thank you. In this gorgeous reading, it's almost as if I can't really explain. It's just, yeah. Look, we do. I can't really explain it, I said. We do hear the call and the need. You know, when I said at the beginning, like there's the ferryman, look, there's always a point of stepping over. What I mean by that is stepping over a transition that's so incredibly large we go through in life. We're born, that's a big one. We die, that's a big one. We have these transitions through our lives. Paying the ferryman is recognizing the call of the piper. When it's time for this new time. And what is this new time all about? As I said before, with the fawn, this transformation, recognizing in this beautiful fairy that was kissed by the pixies, she is infused with life force. This blue light, electricity, creative source force. As I said, in faith, we recognize this. In others, we walk in the same pathways of light and life. As we do with the fawn, we recognize it. And our counterparts, our compadres, our fellow humans, our fellow life forms, animals, birds, trees, plants, insects, organisms, cells, amoebas, whatever, elephants, whatever. We recognize and meet on equal ground. This is the call. The piper is calling us to recognize that this is a massive transformation going on at this time. And if we come back to the heart, that's a really good place to start, people. It's a really beautiful place to start at number 1. Lots of shedding burdens, lots of self-forgiveness, and we get to come here after we've been back through the pathways, the hallways, the libraries of the Great Mother, the High Priestess, the Great Goddess, female principle. This is really largely a reading. It's really emotional, really intense. Absolute cluster of major arcana cards in relation to transformation. As this was a reading for the full moon in Virgo, I thank you for joining me. So this beautiful full moon on the 27th seems to be a kind of full moon that we you know, I think I might have to go out at night, midnight, and dance around the garden. It just feels like that kind of full moon. To me, this is a beautiful reading. Thank you so much for joining me, and check out the chakra reading this week. It is centered on the heart. Perfect timing. Look, take care. See you soon. Thank you.